Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start the meeting of the Cabinet now, and thanks for attending this meeting of the Executive Cabinet of South Ribble Borough Council today on Monday, the 20th of June 2022. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Councillor Paul Foster, and I'm the leader of the Council, and I'm the chair of the meeting. Councillor Mick Titherington is the Vice Chair and the Deputy Leader of the Council. Members of the Cabinet are present here in the Civic Centre. Also present with us are our officers required to support the meeting. Other members of the Council present in the Civic Centre should press their button when they wish to speak, to indicate that they wish to speak, and then please do switch them off when you are finished to avoid any feedback. Any members of the Council who've dialed in via the Teams link, you're asked to keep your microphone on mute, and then please use the raise your hand function to indicate a request to speak at the appropriate time. And again, remute your microphone once you're finished speaking. Reports will be presented by the relevant portfolio holder, after which I will bring the item into Cabinet for debate. Once the Cabinet has considered the report, I will then invite questions from other members not on the Cabinet. After the members of the Council have been invited to speak on any agenda items, any members of the public in attendance will also be invited to ask any questions they may have. Unfortunately, I will remind members of the public that they are limited to a total of 5 minutes for the duration of the meeting. Please also note that this meeting is recorded and live streamed on YouTube, and the web link for this is displayed on the agenda for the meeting. Finally, I'd like to particularly welcome the attendees who have invited and come to the meeting this evening in respect to your funding applications, which we're going to announce the outcome of very shortly. Right, thank you all. I will now formally open the meeting and move to the first agenda item. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
I've received apologies from Councillor Matt Tomlinson. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Agenda item 2, any declarations of interest? Do any members of the Cabinet have any additional declarations of interest? No, none declared. Item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. The minutes of the last meeting held on the 23rd of March 2022 are attached to be signed as a correct record. I'm happy to propose that. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Titherington. Any questions from members of the Cabinet regarding the previous minutes? No. Any questions from members not on Cabinet about the previous minutes? No. Any members of the public have any questions? No. Okay. It's been proposed and seconded that the minutes are accepted. Is that agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 4 is the notice of executive decisions and the Cabinet forward plan. I don't intend to go through this in detail tonight, colleagues, other than, as usual, there is an awful lot of work in the coming months for Cabinet, and there's a list there of the decisions that we will be making, who will be making them, and when we are targeting to make the decisions by. We're asked to note this report, which we'll do. Any questions from any members of the Cabinet on the forward plan? No. Any questions from members not on Cabinet about the forward plan? No. Any questions from members of the public? Okay. Good. That is noted. Right. Getting to the meaty, the important stuff, hey? The agenda item 5 is the Leisure Local Community Funds. Just before I ask Councillor Titherington to present this item, just so everyone's clear how we're going to deal with this. Clearly, the outcome of the funding applications is going to be announced tonight, but what we intend to do is Councillor Titherington will go through the process to start with. Cabinet will debate the process, invite any questions on the process. Once that has been done, Councillor Titherington is then going to announce the detailed results of the applications. So, without further ado, Councillor Mick Titherington, the Leisure Local Community Fund.
Thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to present this report, and I make no apology once again to referring to our leisure and sports strategy, and in particular our aim to open up and widen opportunities for our people to enjoy healthy pursuits in the localities in which they live. In pursuit of that goal, we have consistently stated our intention to release those facilities that, for whatever reason, are currently not available for community use and therefore, in our opinion, underused. When Councillor Matthew Tomlinson introduced this year's budget, I described it as a community budget. And I said that because it was the biggest release of funds in the history of the borough to invest in our communities. This report, together with the Boost Fund report later, which will be introduced by Councillor Belinsky-Gelder, it is a tangible example of what it all means. We are putting our money where our mouth is, and we're showing that we have the desire and the drive to deliver our strategies for the benefit of our communities. The report shows that 21 groups offering a variety of activities ranging from performing arts, netball, boxing, hockey, tennis, swimming, football and much more will benefit from nearly £250,000 worth of investments, which will enable them to offer a variety of ways for our people to make healthy lifestyle choices and to getting more people more active, which is the fundamental of our leisure and sports strategy. For all those activists and volunteers who dedicate their time to organise and provide activities, this is a massive show of support from their council and an appreciation of all what they do. The benefits that will accrue from this investment are manifold, not just from a health and well-being perspective, but also from a moral and economic view, as well as advancing the green agenda. So, Leader, it's with that I recommend to Cabinet that we support this report.
Thanks, Mick. And as I said, we'll go on shortly to make the announcement of where the £245,247 allocation is being made. And just to remind Cabinet colleagues that this money that we're investing into our communities money, we derived a huge underspend the last 12 months internally within the authority through efficient working. This isn't COVID, this isn't government COVID grant funding or anything like that. This is efficiencies from this authority through hard working officers, some of which were doing 2 or 3 separate roles during the pandemic, and they should be commended for this because that's what has allowed the Cabinet to release these funds to the communities. And I think also what we all need to remember, and I can't bloody believe I'm going to mention Margaret Thatcher here as a Labour councillor, but never mind, but she said once, didn't she, that this isn't the government's money, it's the taxpayers' money, it's our community's money, and our community need this investment and they need it now after the pandemic. That's exactly what we're going to do. So without further ado, Mick, I'm happy to second your proposals that you will announce shortly. Do any members of the Cabinet have anything to add or to ask Mick about the process? Jay?
Thanks, Leader. Mick, fantastic, and Yella, brilliant. This is real community investment. This is the heart of what the Labour administration is all about, really. Rather than save this money, we're going to put this money into the communities because they know how to spend the money, and those applications have been well received and well articulated. So well done, everyone who's put an application in. So congratulations to the Cabinet members and all the officers and the community organisations. Well done.
Thanks, Jay. Any more points, any questions before I invite any questions from members of Cabinet? Any questions from any member of the council not on Cabinet? No. Oh, Councillor Adams, Will.
Thank you, Chair. It's not really a question, it's more just an observation, really. I think it's a great policy, and I think the direction of our leisure local strategy should be applauded. It's great to see so many organisations that are in this report and that have been successful. I'd just like to say particular mention to those in Penwitham, who I definitely believe is the best part of the borough. But I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of organisations locally who will benefit from this, and the impact on the wider community will be huge. I do just want to say something finally, that I see this as something that's the start of something great. You know, this is an initial funding of these organisations and these strategies, but I do think this is a start of a good partnership moving forward in terms of how we deliver leisure. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Will. 1 minute, Jackie. I think it's, and thanks for your comments, Will. Just reminded me that I should have mentioned this earlier, and I apologise to Councillor Turner. Clearly, everything that we do as an administration, we do with the supply and confidence support of our Liberal Democrat friends. So, and we absolutely continue to acknowledge that, Angela. So thank you. Yeah, it's okay. I've mentioned it. Councillor Alty.
Yeah, I just want to say I spent 25 plus years working in community. One of the biggest and hardest barriers that you ever had to climb over was finding adequate funding for all the exciting and innovative ideas that you had when you were busy working and trying to find the next new thing. And this is a real step forward, and I couldn't commend it more. Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie. Any other members not on Cabinet have anything to add? Right, let's therefore move swiftly on. Mick, can I ask you to please announce the outcome of the applications? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add is that, I mean, I think we all appreciate the time and dedication that goes in by those people within our community who provide the opportunities for our people to participate in, you know, the activities of their choice. So, I mean, I just want to endorse what everybody else has said, and I know there's a number of you here, and I've spoken to a number of you in the past. I mean, and it really is great, and do appreciate it. So I'm delighted to announce these. And I'll just go through the groups. Lostock Hall Juniors FC, we're allocating £15,000. Leyland St Andrews C&E Infant School PTFA is £1,000. St Paul's Bowling Club is £17,000. Walton-le-Dale Junior Football Club £5,000. CNOS is £3,320 for their Saturday sessions and £7,400 for their swim and learn sessions. Penwitham Cricket Club will be allocated £20,000. The 9th Penwitham Scout Group will receive £5,000. Leyland Barracudas will receive £4,360. Affinity Performing Arts will receive £5,000. Leyland Pirates Football Club will receive £19,000. Hoole Village Memorial Hall will get £20,000. New Longton Sports and Social Club will get £19,999. Penwitham Priory Academy will get £9,455. Box Clever CIC will get £9,900. Leyland and Chorley Hockey Club will get £9,970. The Penwitham Boxing Club will receive £10,000 for circuit sessions, free circuit sessions and free gym membership, and receive £20,000 for investment in the gym facilities. Leyland Warriors Rugby League Club will get £20,000. Brookfield Hockey Club will get £2,420. Eagle and Child Bowling Club will get £13,000, and South Ribble Netball Club will get £4,000. St James Players will get £4,423. And I'm asking, Cabinet to approve that this evening.
Thanks, Mick, and I'm happy to second that with pleasure. Can Cabinet please indicate all those in favour? That's unanimous. That decision is now made. Thank you. So moving swiftly on. So the agenda item 6 is the Boost Fund Plus 2022. Councillor Aniela Bilinski-Gelder.
Thanks, Chair. So the Boost Fund is a really exciting programme of projects to support our communities through COVID, similar to what Mick said, Councillor Titherington, and now potentially the cost of living crisis as well. You may remember in our last budget in March, we allocated for the community 250,000 for community projects, which the community could request directly themselves for the benefit of their local area. I was really proud to announce the community budget and invite local people to ask for support wherever they thought it was needed, not where we thought it was. The community didn't disappoint, and I said to fellow members that this is the closest that we have come during this term to participatory budgeting, which is where the local people decide themselves where they think the priority for resources and support should lay. Once again, a huge thank you to the officers for expediting this process in light of the budget announcement earlier this year in March. Jennifer Mullin worked quickly behind the scenes to ensure the processes for governance and audit were satisfied. The project plans were made available to our communities via a web link, and the leader and I were extremely impressed with the number, quality and variety of proposals we received from the communities in South Ribble. The community hubs should be pleased that they were so well linked in with their communities and that we were able now to provide almost 350,000 in funds to our local communities for the future of the whole borough. A huge thank you to the hub chairs and members for getting your heads around the process and discussing and debating the proposals in detail together, being involved in the democratic decision-making process, which is really important to me personally. The proposals saw 2 rounds of decision makers, the first screening through the local hubs for each of the 5 areas, and then the second was through the leader and I as cabinet member for communities. So if the leader gives me permission, I will now proudly announce the results of both the Boost Fund and the Boost Fund Plus.
Thanks, Aniela. We'll just hold on a sec if we may, because I just want to see if we've got any questions from any members regarding the process before we then get onto your announcement, if that's okay. So no, it's been great. We really enjoyed. You know, as I say, some of these investments we're going to make into our community now is going to be a lifesaver for them, literally a lifesaver, and they rely so much on community grant funding and volunteers, and the pandemic has crippled a number of our community networks, and we have a duty and a responsibility to support them as best we can. And cash isn't always the answer, but cash is the answer now, Aniela, isn't it? Because they need this boost to keep going and supply and continues to supply hugely needed support to our local community, the young and the old. Any members of Cabinet have any questions to ask Aniela on the process, on the Boost Fund Plus? Any members not on Cabinet have any questions on the process? No? Good, looks like you got away scot-free there, Aniela, doesn't it? So here we go then. So the announcement. So you're going to do the first round of Boost funding first, aren't you? And then the main announcement of the Boost Fund Plus afterwards, yeah? Over to you.
Thank you. So we have a yearly 25,000 that the hubs can bid into, and this is the results of that boost. So I'll do that first. There's only a few. So Bamber Bridge, Lostock Hall and Waltonley Dale requested some school planters, and they were successful. So they'll be able to plant flowers and vegetables maybe in school grounds. Leyland and Farrington requested food bank shelving and trolleys. And so they were successful, and they'll receive that at the Leyland, St Andrews, I think it is, food bank. Penwitham requested life-saving belts, and they were successful. Their bid was really thorough. Everything was costed really well, and so we were happy to sign that off. And Western Parishes, they requested some money to clear DBS checks for their Garden Angels, which is where local residents support each other in renovating each other's gardens. So they were successful in receiving that. I'm on to the Boost Fund Plus, which is the one I've just spoken about. I am now going to announce them like Mick did. So 8th Penwitham Street Teresa Scout Group Scout Hut refurbishment, they'll get 13,130. Penwitham Town Council requested Hill Road Cemetery Road resurfacing, and they'll receive 30,000. And mental health first aiders for Penwitham as well, and they'll get 10,000 towards the mental health first aiders. Penwitham Community Hub did a lot of work on a Middlefirth community garden, a lot of community consultation. It was really led by the grassroots, and they'll receive 15,000 for that. Age concern, Bamber Bridge, Lostock Hall and Walterley Dale. The first one was Age Concern Central Lancs, and they'll receive 19,500 for Lostock Hall Friendship and Activity Hall refurbishment. Finley's Families, a community interest company, Finley's First Steps, they'll receive 19,091. St Catherine's Hospice, upgrading pathways at St Catherine's Hospice, they'll receive 10,000 for theirs. And Leyland and Farrington now, Churches Together, they requested 20,000 for a furniture scheme. I think it was for a new van. It's well used, so we've accepted that. St Ambrose Halls for All, Warm Halls for All, they'll receive 15,000 for that. Key Unlocking Futures, which is the Base 2 Community Centre, and we're going to match fund that, and we're going to give them 34,545. Leyland Community Radio wanted some money to refurbish a room at St Mary's Community Centre, and we're going to give them the full award of 5,000 for that. Leyland United Reformed Church wanted money for a community space, and we're going to give them 19,000 towards that. And then Eastern Parishes, Samlesbury Memorial Hall, we're going to give them 16,741. Walterley Dale Recreation Society, Woodland Walk and Sensory Garden, we'll give them 8,000 for that. And then finally, Western Parishes, Longton VM, a modernisation programme which includes an outside terrace, 48,842 for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniela. A raft of, what's really pleasing as well, is a raft of community schemes all across the borough as well. And may I congratulate all the community schemes and the residents and everybody that's worked together to put these bids together for us, because ultimately it's the communities that's going to hugely benefit now. So I'd urge all of you that have been successful with your bids to be getting in touch with Rebecca and the team fairly quickly, because you've got one final hoop to jump through, which is signing up to the final terms with the grants as we award them. But the cash is sat there waiting for you, so it's really with our community now, with our support to get on and start delivering the schemes. It's really, really pleasing that we're able to do this with you, and thank you all for participating and giving us some really challenging decisions to make. But as I say, we've just announced over £500,000 worth of investment into our local community, as you'll see in every area of the community as well, that we're supporting. And that's one of the rather pleasing aspects of our job, isn't it? So thanks, Daniela. Any questions from anyone? No. So we've had a proposal from Councillor Belinsky-Gelder. I've seconded it. Do we approve those grants? Everyone in favour? Unanimous. That's approved. So congratulations, everyone. Right, before we move on, I don't know if as much as our community like listening to me, you may wish to leave now. Actually, it's up to you, or you can stay on for the remainder of the meeting. We've got quite a heavy agenda, but you're more than welcome to leave quickly if you want to. Right, we'll move on with the meeting. Just for those that are dialing in through Teams, there's most of our audience has just left, rather surprisingly. We'll get on with the cabinet meeting. So, agenda item 7, the Community Hub Action Plans 2022-2023. Councillor Bielinski-Gelder.
Thanks, Chair. I'm once again extremely pleased to be speaking on the Community Hub Action Plans this evening. Well done to the Hub Chairs and Vice Chairs for ensuring momentum. A huge thank you to the officers for all of their hard work and continued support. You may remember we evaluated the Hubs last year and reported on them in December 2021. At the same time, the Hubs were peer reviewed, and again, the Hubs have been peer reviewed, and the peers were more than happy to recommend continuation of the current direction that we're heading in. The action plans for 2022-23 are exciting, varied and achievable because of the investment made by the administration, in particular the 350,000 which I've just spoken on, awarded to the Boost Fund Plus. All the information about each of the 5 hubs is available in this report, including their full budget details, how much funding is currently ring-fenced for projects and how much is remaining. I think it's useful to say at this point, as mentioned in point 12 of the report, that I'm asking Cabinet to agree that all reserves must be spent in the 2022-23 financial year, and any unspent budgets will be returned to council reserves. I will, however, argue that this money should be made available to the Boost Fund in order for all the hubs across South Ribble to have access to the resources for their communities. Whether I'll get that, I don't know. In some cases, the hubs have held on to money for years and years for emergencies, but we have just been through a COVID crisis and the money is still sat there not serving the community. If the hubs haven't managed to allocate the funds throughout the COVID crisis, which I would consider the rainy day, then they've been waiting for, then I suggest to Cabinet the money is best being reabsorbed and used where it's needed. Finally, each hub action plan is now available and accessible in the public domain, and I'd like to highlight, in line with the new equality framework, with an equality impact assessment has been carried out for each of the plans, and there are no potential negative impacts on any of the protected groups. As I said at the start, I'm extremely pleased to see these action plans moving forwards. Great work, keep going, and don't be afraid to be even more ambitious. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Daniela. Yes, I think what we're seeing, and we've discussed this, haven't we, that the hubs are becoming quite dynamic now, which is really, really pleasing, because this is a community-led initiative that the Cabinet's been championing. And you'll note it's not for us to accept the action plans either, it's just to note the action plans because there are community hubs action plans. But the other thing is, I hope the chairs and the vice chairs of the hub realise now that the art of anything is possible. Working with us, you know, the Cabinet will support whatever community initiatives we feel it is appropriate that we can support, but they need to come from the hubs. It's hub led, and as you've just seen with the allocation of the Leisure Local and the Boost Fund Plus, that we're going to listen to our communities through our community hubs. And I just really do hope that they all continue to thrive. One of the things I'm going to do, Aniel, I'm going to amend the recommendation slightly to support what you've just asked there. So any monies that remain unspent at the end of this municipal year, we will put into the Boost Fund allocation. Yep. So we can just amend that slightly.
Sorry, Leader, just to point out that in the previous report, there's reference to Cabinet is asked to improve retention of all allocated budget for further committee. So it's
right, Councillor, that's already done. I should look at the recommendation, shouldn't I? On the previous report, Gary. So yeah, that's what's scuppered us. We'll let you off for that, Dave. It's there. It's approved. Right, good. Any questions from anyone on Cabinet? Mick?
Well, it's not a question. I mean, it's just, it's slightly a shame that all those community group representatives did go out and lead, because I think this is another example of what we are trying to achieve in terms of getting the community involved and serving the communities. And I think, just on that last point about if we don't spend it, I think that will concentrate people's minds. So I suggest there won't be much going back into the Boost Fund, because if the hubs have got anything about them, then they will make sure that it is spent. And if you look at the projects that are on the various hubs, it is all about the hubs serving their community. It is all, we're not just serving their community, working with the community, responding to the community's needs. And I think it's just another really, really pleasing report. And I think it is another example of the steps that we are making in terms of building that, you know, community strength and the community wealth. Yeah, great report, and happy to sort of note it.
Thanks, Mick. Jay?
Just one last thing to add. What a fair and transparent model this is. You know, to see the people in here tonight give it a bit more, for me, a bit more resonance, a bit more, you see the impact. Let's be honest, all us in this room, the amount of sit-downs we've had in the hub meetings and disagreements and advice we've sought, and, you know, and some haven't been successful. But what a fair way for us to distribute funds to the areas which need it most. I think it's brilliant. So well done. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Any members not on Cabinet have any questions to ask Councillor Bilinski-Gelder? No. Any members of the public have any questions to ask? No. So asked to note the action plans, Daniela, and they are duly noted. Thank you. Moving on, another exceptionally important policy document being brought forward. Agenda item 8, the Equality Framework. Councillor Bilinski-Gelder.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Vicky Willett, John James and Howard Anthony for preparing this report and bringing the council policy up to date in line with current government legislation. The recommendations are to ensure we continue to meet our statutory duties under the Equality Act 2010 as a local authority, to update and set out a clear equality framework that reflects the development of shared services, enabling a consistent approach, and to continue to strengthen the council's commitment and advancement of equality. Point 10 of the report sets out our ambitions for achieving equality, and they are establishing equality objectives every 4 years, collecting and publishing equality related data to illustrate compliance with the Act, and ensuring equality is embedded in the decision making process through equality comments on reports. The key changes from the previous policy include a simplified equality impact assessment tool, which is easier to apply and consistent for both councils to staff. So staff only need to refer to one assessment. And the new tool also includes strategic considerations such as the impact on the council's reputation, in addition to environmental, health and socio-economic considerations. The third point is refreshed equality objectives set out independently by each council to reflect their communities and monitored annually, and clear roles and responsibilities for staff and members across the council. I'm happy to support the recommendations in this report and ask the Cabinet to support them too. Thanks.
Thanks, Daniela. I think it's a really well written, really well presented report because, you know, we've said this before, haven't we? We need, all our policies need to be understandable by the community that are relying upon them. And again, talk is cheap. You know, this is the administration really is supportive of equality in every aspect. And it's not just about talk. We want to see it implemented, and we will ensure it's implemented fully. Any comments, colleagues? Daniela? Mick?
Just to wholly support it. I mean, I think it's, as you say, I mean, it's a well-written document. I think it sets out what we stand for as a council, and it just fits the bill, and yeah, I'm just happy to approve it.
Thanks, Mick. Any questions from members not on Cabinet? Councillor Alty.
This is a bit tongue-in-cheek. It's obviously a brilliant document, and I know lots of hours have gone into developing it, but I've been at 3 successive conferences in recent days, and I just wanted to ask as I say, tongue-in-cheek question. There's only one council in the entire UK that actually has a director for equality and diversity. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you might consider in the future. Thanks.
Well, it may be an upper tier, I don't know, but we actually do have a director who's responsible for equality and diversity, and that's Vicky Willets. So it's already contained within Vicky's responsibilities, hence the document you have before you.
Thanks, Gary. Any other questions for anyone? No. So we're asked to approve the equality framework as a shared policy document. So Aniela's proposed it. I'm more than happy to second that proposal. All those in favour? So that's unanimous. Thank you. Oh, goodness me, yeah. Agenda item 9, Neighbourhood Services Strategy 2022 to 2025. Councillor Bielinski-Gelder.
Aniela show tonight. Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report, as suggested in the recommendations, is to ensure that neighbourhood services is fit for purpose, making best use of our resources and managing and meeting customer expectations. The report is simply for noting. As an administration, we recognise that the neighbourhood services represents a large proportion of the council revenue budget, so it's important that we make the most of the service. And I think this report actually evidences that we do. Therefore, this document is a living document and may change and evolve over with further recommendations. The strategy will be going via the hubs as well as the Climate Change Committee, which has been specially requested to make sure that we get that grassroots input into it over the next few months in order for them to have an input. Although I must say the officers have already done a really good job of incorporating the green agenda into this strategy in the first instance as written at point 11. The top level themes of the strategy are addressing climate change, biodiversity, neighbourhood area improvements, modernising technology and information, people and culture, and the expected benefits of the strategy include more efficient services, cleaner, safer and more attractive local areas, reduced environmental impact, as well as maintaining service standards, a flexible and sustainable workforce. The strategy is for 3 years to 2025, with initial evaluation set for 6 months' time. The Labour Group have already discussed the strategy and have made a special request to ensure that all 12 of the new refurbished play areas across the borough are well maintained and checked, to consider rewilding. Oh, also they've requested that we consider rewilding. So we already do wildflower meadows, but that actually takes, quite a lot of resources. If we allow areas to grow over naturally with grass and things like that, that's what the group have suggested, in addition to wildflower meadows, and to look at enforcement options for issues such as dog fouling and fly tipping. So I'd like to recommend this strategy to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thanks, Aniela. Someone's been busy the last few weeks, haven't you? I think that the rewilding is an interesting point, because I've seen on Bent Lane where they've allowed, obviously we've got the new play area there, and with the whole area is now rewilding, as they call it, and it looks fab. But it's not the fact that it looks good, it's that impact it's having on the biodiversity. And again, I really like seeing the community's feedback for this as well, because they're just completely supportive of what we're doing. And, don't go mowing the grass down, well, we're not, because we're rewilding it and it looks really, really good. And it's really interesting to see the number of children there as well, and they're really into the biodiversity side of things. So that's all really, really, really positive stuff. And as you say, there's nothing more really to say on the strategy. It's absolutely spot on. Any comments, colleagues? Mick?
This has been, the strategy has been discussed at the Climate Emergency Task Group, and they are fully supportive of it. And I think the group members are particularly interested and keen and pleased to see the references to biodiversity and the other climate changes. And I meant to mention it also, it was interesting that the climate emergency was also included in the hub programme. So I think we are well, certainly we're leading on the message. I mean, there's still a long way to go in terms of delivering on the message, and that's one of the things that I will say about the biodiversity. And when we're wildflowering or not cutting things, is that we do explain that to the public, because sometimes you do get sort of complaints is that we're not cutting the grass or we're not doing that, but we're not doing it for a particular reason, and it is part of our green agenda, and so it's important that we do that. But other than that, I mean, as well as that, I mean, is that, yeah, I think it's another fantastic report.
Thanks, Mick. I totally agree. Interestingly enough, I noticed on the social media side of things, it was the community engaging with our community about that, about not cutting as well. And so it's clear to see how engaged they are. They really are. Right. Any other questions? No. Any questions from members not in Cabinet? Councillor Alty and then Councillor Adams.
It's just a quick one. There was a bit of a bun fight to try and get these wildflower patches, more and more of them. We realise that there's a budget, but I mean, there's such a positive presence in the communities, and a positive visible presence. So if we can kind of stretch it a bit, that'd be brilliant. It's really good stuff.
Hi, thanks for that. Yeah, so we do, I sent out an email to all councillors about 9 months ago, in preparation for January, February, when we would have a list. And every single one that I got requested was investigated, because there's 5 or 6 criteria that it has to not be under a tree, for example, not be overloaded with water, and there's like an example of 5, but every one that we get asked for, we do look at, and we can afford to do more. It's the budget, as far as I'm aware, the budget isn't an issue in terms of the current list. It's just about the sites where they've been requested and whether they're suitable or not. So,
thanks, Daniela. I think by the look on Jackie's face, we might be inundated for 2023 in Farrington.
But
well,
Chair, I mean, just to be fair, I mean, Councillor Chris Lomax, on behalf of the the Climate Emergency Task Group, has been around and has put forward a number of suggestions of where we can sort of, have these wildflower meadows. So he's done. There has been quite a bit of work done on it already.
Cheers, Mick. Well,
thank you. Yeah, I was just more about how the community hubs could work with this strategy, and how they could impact on it. How do you envisage the community hubs linking in with the strategy?
Well, I'd see you as a consultation body, so you could invite ASIM or the member from Neighbourhood Services to come and speak, like the climate change one, and ask them to go through it, and they could even potentially suggest projects that you could take up in your local area, which will benefit the local community. That is something that officers are working on, a list of projects on climate, health, and all that, and so this could be added to that list if that's something that the hubs are interested in.
Thanks, Daniela. Karen?
Thank you, Chair. It's just a comment and a question. To improve the drive for more of an efficient service, and especially in the use of digital equipment and everything, I hope that there won't be an overlooking of our neighbourhood officers who are the eyes and ears of the borough, who, of course, during COVID have provided invaluable insight to the needs of the members of the community. I hope that there will be a balance of that digital won't take over from the human touch. Thank you.
Yeah, Asim, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, the efficiencies in relation to technology is to make the service more transparent and accessible to residents. So the idea is that people will be able to go online, understand the frequency of some of the scheduled work that we undertake, and interact with that more electronically, to actually pass information on to our neighbourhood officers digitally, to tag our assets, so we have more visibility of the amount of resources that we're committing. It's not about reducing the resources on the ground. It's actually to make that efficient so we can actually get more done.
That's him. Councillor Keith Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, someone's on. Okay. I mean, it's great work we're seeing with the biodiversity, and I think what we also need to sort of keep in mind is that it took 400 years to get us where we are now, and we need to. It's not going to take one term or maybe even 2 terms to get it back the way we want. But these things take time. Things take time to grow, time to establish, and things like that. And there's stuff that we don't see that is very important. So, the state of our soil and what's beneath it, and the water bodies that are beneath it. So everything that we do so far and everything we're committed to will have an effect on that. With regard to the projects, I mean, it's great what Councillor Lomax is doing. We also mentioned Councillor Unsworth as well for the work she's sort of jumped in on with wrapping and waste products from various takeaways in her ward, because they do too mix into the biodiversity, and unfortunately they don't mix in very well. So I think the work we're doing is very well, and I'd like to congratulate Mick for supporting us for doing that as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Any Councillor Unsworth?
Yeah, it was just a little bit of clarification, really. In here, we talk about the wild corridors and wild meadows. We also talk about rewilding, which I think is slightly different. And there's also the urban flowers that we're doing. I just wondered whether we needed to just, in our minds, be really clear about what we're talking about when we. Is that? No.
Yeah, so I think Mick alluded to that a little bit. He said that if we're going to not cut grass and things like that, we need to educate people why we're not cutting it, and that is different to the wildflowers, because the wildflowers have a really big impact, and they're colourful, and they're either a poppy box or the different types of flowers. But yeah, you're right. If we need to let people know that we are leaving it to not be cut, and why it's important, and when it might be cut, and and that. So we definitely need to get the messaging right on it.
Yeah, it's a good point, Aniela. We'll push a comms exercise on it as well. Yeah, we'll push that hard. Any further questions? Councillor Phil Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We're talking about biodiversity and wilding areas, which are really, really important. But it's also important that we have formal areas as well. The place does look clean, and the place does look tidy, and that litter is picked up, and the edges are mown to a proper degree. Education and information to the residents will be important, because they will just look upon it as we're not doing the job properly. If everything is just grown and all the verges are grown, it just sometimes doesn't give a proper impression without actually knowing why it's there. So education and communication will be really, really important in that.
Yep, thanks, Phil. Right, Councillor Damien.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, will there be consultation with the ward councillors, for example, because they might be more in tune with which areas would be good for rewilding and which ones aren't?
Yes, so I suppose that could come through your hubs. If you do consult with your hub, you could put that through there. But I'm always happy to receive emails from anybody who wants a wildflower area or their grass verges to be rewilded. So that's fine. Just get in touch with me.
So I'm just to clarify, before plans are put in place to rewild certain areas, the local ward councillors will be notified, so at least they could have a chance to discuss it and maybe object.
Yep, that's fine. We can make sure that happens, yeah.
Okay, I think we're done. So we're asked that the report is noted and the new strategy is approved for consultation with community hubs and the climate emergency working group prior to executive member decision. So Councillor Bielinski-Gelder has proposed that. I'm happy to second that. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Good. You're done, Aniela, for a while. Relax. Oh no, it's me now. Well, it's actually Councillor Matthew Tomlinson who's in Turkey by the swimming pool, but we'll forgive him. So we'll move on. Agenda item 10, capital and balance sheet outturn 2021-22. I don't intend to discuss this, colleagues, in great detail because we've all just been through this with the scrutiny committee literally 2 hours ago. And let me just read out what the scrutiny committee's comments were on the report. Which one is it, Gary? That one. So capital and balance sheet.
That's that one.
Yeah, here we go. So the panel thanked the leader and director for presenting the detailed report and answering any questions, and they asked that the capital programme be carefully monitored to ensure delivery of the planned schemes. Well, we're happy to accept that. We always accept the recommendations from our colleagues on the scrutiny committee, and we do anyway already closely monitor the capital programme on a monthly basis, a weekly basis. There's been some significant changes there with announcements that the council has made, which are pleasing. Does anybody on Cabinet have any questions on the capital and balance sheet outturn report? So look back anyway. No? Any questions from members not on Cabinet? No? Right. So I just want to go through, there's a couple of recommendations that we're voting on. So it's to, the first recommendation is to approve the revised capital programme as attached to Appendix A, which include approving amendments to the programme as detailed at point 11 of the report. To note the variations to the programme, which are detailed by each scheme at Appendix B and referenced within the body report. And finally, to note the position of the balance sheet monitoring section of the report in respect of cash, investment and loan balances and debtors as of the 31st of March 2022. Do I have a seconder? Thanks. Mick, all those in favour? It's approved unanimously. We're then moving on to agenda item 11, which is the revenue budget outturn for 21-22. Again, this has been subject to a detailed scrutiny review. I'll just read out what the recommendations from the scrutiny committee were. They thanked us for attending, as they always do. They look forward to the Q1 performance report updating on the impacts of increased costs and the cost of living crisis is having upon our residents. And they asked that the level of reserves for planning appeals and inquiries be reviewed in the future. Are we happy to accept those recommendations? Okay, they're accepted. Again, I don't intend to debate this in any further detail. As I say, it's been through just been through the scrutiny committee, and it's a look back. Any questions from any colleagues on Cabinet? Any questions from any members not on Cabinet? No. So the recommendation to Cabinet to note the provisional outturn position for revenue and reserves as of the 31st of March 2022, and then to approve the creation of the following reserve from the in-year underspend, which was 92,000 for the creation of a reserve for the costs of planning appeals and inquiries, and then add in the scrutiny committee's recommendations, which we're accepting. I'm happy to propose. Seconded by Councillor Mick Titherington, sorry. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Making good progress here. So the again, agenda item 12 is the Q4 performance monitoring report 2021-22. Again, this has just been through a detailed piece of scrutiny with the scrutiny committee before this meeting. All the members of the cabinet were present at that meeting. The scrutiny committee have given the following recommendations. Obviously thanks myself and the directors for the detailed report and answering all the questions. Number 2, look forward to Chorley and South Ribble Partnership presenting its draft action plan to the scrutiny committee later in the year. Number 3, asked for more information on the number of credit union members and amount of savings and loans. Number 4, welcomes the commitment to take the credit union out to local communities across the borough linked to the community hubs. And finally, expresses concern at the customer service wait times and acknowledges the steps being taken to improve the situation and learn for the future. We're happy to accept those recommendations of the scrutiny committee. Yeah, so they're accepted by cabinet and be added into the recommendations. I'll just make one point about customer services and Gateway. I think Cabinet are all acutely aware of the challenges we continue to face and our staff face. I know Aniela's onto this on a daily basis, monitoring and speaking with the directors about the challenges that we're still facing. The hardware is now in place. The vacancies are now being filled, and so we need to push ahead and make sure that the improvements are followed through now. And as I say, there'll be another report coming to Cabinet in the coming weeks, and we'll discuss it further. Any questions on the Q4 performance monitoring from Cabinet? No. Any members not on Cabinet? Any questions? No. So we are asked to note the report, which is duly noted. Give me a second. Agenda item 13, vehicle procurement programme. Right, members will note that this report is in two parts. There's part of it is confidential, is in part 2. Part of it is in the open forum. What I'm going to try and do is see if we can accept these recommendations in the public with the debate and not have to take it into part 2. So the report's in front of us for approval of the procurement of vehicles, replacements, and we've to agree the procurement methods and its evaluation, and to approve the award of the contracts we delegated to the executive member for strategy and reform, that being me. So we know that there's a potential capital expenditure of up to £575,000 on the vehicle replacements. The capital programme does include a budget of 1.25 million for this year. We approve the contract procurement methods and the tender evaluation criteria, as I mentioned earlier. And as I say, the final award be delegated to myself following that procurement exercise. I know you've all got the report, but basically we're looking to procure one large bodied chassis mounted road sweeper, 10 ride-on cylinder mowers, and one tipper boarded van for use by the landscaping team. There's two questions, colleagues, that are always asked about this. Is it cheaper to lease these vehicles or buy them? And the officers always go through the detailed testing and looking at this, and it is more value for money for the council to procure the items rather than lease them. That's number one. And secondly, it's about the use of electric vehicles to undertake this task. And I think it does say within the report that we're still not at that point where the electric type vehicles are efficient enough to do what we need them to do. And there would be an impact on frontline services if we moved to the electric vehicles at this point. However, it also says within the report that we're using a cleaner diesel fuel type anyway, and we'll continue to look at other alternatives for the fuel moving ahead. Any questions from anybody on Cabinet about the procurement? No. Any questions from members not on Cabinet? Councillor Walton?
Yeah, it's just a question about buying these, the road sweeper and the mowers and the tipper. Have local suppliers been consulted if they could provide the vehicles rather than going to, national companies? I don't know if that's, been considered.
So we don't believe there's anyone suitable, but we're procuring it through a national framework, Karen, to maximise the financial benefits to the council, because a lot of local authorities are tied into the it's the ESPO, isn't it? The Eastern Shires Purchasing Organisation. We do generate a considerable saving on the capital cost by all signing up to that. So on this occasion, the Cabinet's recommended that we keep with that framework and procure directly through it. Any other questions, anyone? Right, good. We can do it all in part one then. So we're asked to, as I said before, note the capital expenditure, approve the procurement methods and tender evaluation criteria within the reports in both the and the appendix, and that the final award of the contract delegated to myself for approval following the procurement process. I'm happy to recommend that. Seconded by Councillor McTitherington. All those in favour? Good, that's unanimous. Thank you. Right, we're now at the point where we need to exclude, unfortunately, the press and public and we'll go into private session. I'm happy to propose that. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Mick. Are we happy to accept that, Cabinet? Yeah. So good evening to every members of the public that are watching us still. We're now going to switch you off, unfortunately.